Good evening. I'm Magda Gebrselassie. New Zealand's police commissioner gave a grim update in the investigation into the deadly shootings. The death toll is rising.
It is with sadness that I advise that the number of people who have died in this awful event has now risen to 50. As of last night, we were able to take all of the victims from both of those scenes. And in doing so, we have located a further victim.
Police believe the two other people taken into custody were not involved in the rampage. They hope in the next few days to say if anyone else was connected. Primary suspect Brenton Tarrant has already made his first court appearance. He is charged with a count of murder. Meanwhile, tributes and memorials to remember the 50 people killed are growing in New Zealand and around the world. The CBC's Adrian Arsenault is in Christchurch with the details.
It is all about them. It needs to be all about them. The people who were so grotesquely targeted in the mosque attacks.
Please pray for my son, for me, and for my daughters.
Then there are the faces of the murdered. These images all lovingly gathered on a fundraising page for the families. The donations already well over $4 million. But the need will soar beyond that. Money won't help with the worst of it. Consider 42-year-old Ara Parvin. She'd been with her husband, who's in a wheelchair, when the gunman took aim. She stood in the way, but she was killed. Her husband survived. And then there's Naeem Rashid and his son Talha. In the wretched live-streaming video of the attack, Naeem is, according to his family, seen rushing the gunman. Neither he nor Talha survived. As hard as it seems, the family have seen the video.
I saw that video and the first thing I wanted to see was the look in his eyes. I did not see an iota of fear in those eyes. And that made me proud. What a brave man he was.
How families cope without them, in many cases without their breadwinners, is a long-term horror to confront. There are plenty of those. The Prime Minister, who spent the day and night reaching out to members of the Muslim community in Christchurch, was, it seems, sent the gunman's manifesto 10 minutes before the shooting, along with 70 other people. By the time they had all digested the hate in it, the terror attacks had already happened. Police Commissioner Mike Bush addressed the media today to say they have finally been through the mosques to collect all of the victims, and unfortunately, they found one more.
As of last night, we were able to take all of the victims from both of those scenes. And in doing so, we have located a further victim.
The gestures have real meaning, but the people who are hurting also have some incredibly urgent needs right now. The families need their dead. They are desperate to get the bodies back and to bury them, but the police still have work to do. And then there are people who are simply waiting for answers. They know their loved ones went to pray, but now they can't get a hold of them, and they're not answering the cell phones. The list of the missing is still long. Adrian Arsenault, CBC News, Christchurch, New Zealand.
Just people out there, they don't know like how they should, like how we are, like truly are, like they just hate us for no reason.
That reaction from a 13-year-old girl at an annual Islamic conference in Ottawa following yesterday's mass shooting in New Zealand. Well, hundreds gathered at the Ernest & Young Centre in Ottawa today for the yearly I Lead Islamic Conference. For those in attendance, the event took on a special significance. Organizers and speakers worked around the clock yesterday to make sure the conference was a source of comfort and an attempt at healing as the global Muslim community continues to reel from the attack in Christchurch.
We have events like this. It kind of just brings us together and I guess feel hurt together in a way, like you're not alone.
This conference was really meant to bring together the youth and provide them with a venue to hear discussions of a religious or social nature that are of interest to them. So that's how this started a number of years ago, and over time it's evolved. It's become a family event with a bazaar and other activities, but it was always about kind of mobilizing youth within the Islamic community. The role of the conference became so much more important after what happened yesterday. The theme for this year, which was already chosen, was the art of perseverance. And if there was ever a time where people needed to come together and support each other and discuss perseverance and how to overcome challenges, I think this is a time. So I think that's now become a new focus, at least for this year.
After we heard about the incident, we contacted the community outreach wing of the Ottawa Police Services, and they responded to us. They told us that they're going to send more security around the conference throughout the whole conference time, and also they informed us that the police chief, Ottawa Police Chief, Mr. Bordolo, is going to attend the conference as well.
When we were in the car, I know my brother was a bit concerned, even just yesterday when we went to the mosque, but I'm sure that they have security and they have police here ready to protect us, and so far I feel safe, so that's good. Yeah, there has been an increase in attacks against minority groups and Muslims, so I definitely feel we do feel afraid, we do feel vulnerable, attending places of worship after such a heartbreaking incident. So yeah, I definitely do feel there's a vulnerability.
قالوا إنا لله وإنا إليه راجعون.
Those prayers echoing across the country, including in Mississauga's Celebration Square, where mourners are also gathering.
What happened in New Zealand transcended all of our common values and inflicted a deep, dark pain on all of us.
Now, also this weekend, memorials for the victims of the Ethiopian airline crash. The memorials are continuing in communities across the world. This while some family members are going the distance to get answers. Last week's crash claimed the lives of 157 people. 18 of them were Canadians. Huaya Fidel met up with one family in Brampton as they begin their journey to get closure.
Manat Vaidya arrived at Pearson Airport early this morning. He's on his way to the crash site in Ethiopia, where 3 generations of his family were killed.
I lost my family, my whole family. So like I say, that is still hard to believe. I'm totally broken right now.
He lost his younger sister Kosha, her husband, their 2 daughters, and his mother and father. They were on their way to Kenya for a family vacation.
I'm still shaking. I'm still not able to digest that they are still no more.
The Nairobi-bound Ethiopian Airlines plane crashed into a field shortly after takeoff on Sunday. The site is turning into a memorial as families from around the world gather to mourn their loved ones. The memorials continued around the world. Here in Toronto, the Ethiopian Orthodox community held a special prayer service for the victims. Meanwhile, in Ottawa, friends and family are remembering Pius Adesamni, the Carleton University professor who died in the crash. A public ceremony was held to honor his memory.
He was so joyful, so I think calling this a celebration of life is really appropriate because he loved life so much. He loved laughing, he loved eating, he loved being with other people.
The cause of the crash is still under investigation. Officials say the DNA identification of the victims could take up to 6 months. The airline is offering family members soil from the crash site to bury. For Vaidya, putting his family to rest is his main concern.
Right now, my priority is to get the closure to the body, to the souls, and I want to make sure that they rest in peace.
Huaya Fidel, CBC News, Toronto.
I'm Adrian Chung on the banks of the Humber River, where the ice jams are clogging up the flow of the water, causing some major flooding, the likes of which haven't been seen in decades. I'll have that story coming up.
Residents and crews in Bolton and Caledon have been working around the clock. This after hundreds of people were forced from their homes due to major flooding. Ice jams by the nearby Humber River have clogged the waterways, and overnight the river was overflowing, spilling onto parts of Highway 50 and nearby residential roads. Now, Adrian Chung is in Bolton tonight. So, Adrian, how are things looking out there?
Well, Magda, as you can see behind me, the water levels of the Humber River are still quite high, but it has come down significantly from where we were last night. The excavators are right in the water. They've been working hard all day to clear up those ice jams, digging through the river. And you can see those ice jams just right next to me where they've put them on the grass here. In some cases, they're as big as a small car, and that has been choking off the water. That is why those excavators are in, so that the water can flow east of Bolton. Now, quite a different story last night when the roads essentially became mini rivers. Lots of water submerged residents' lawns and into their homes. Over 80 homes affected, around 250 people evacuated from their homes. And they're all in cleanup mode today, with the latest numbers saying around 30 homes are still in the thick of it and that they are not allowed back. And we had a chance to speak to the Caledon Fire Chief along with the Bolton Mayor on the latest update a little bit earlier. Have a listen.
Approximately 120 meters of ice that needs to be broken up in order to get this river flowing. So the decrease that we're seeing right now is a result of that mitigation work, and as well as the river upstream has the volume of water has slowly subsided as well. So that's definitely in the plus.
It's a good lesson for all of us to know, just that when you live in the floodplain, there's times you have to adapt and understand that nature's still boss. And we're doing the best we possibly can to mitigate it.
Adrian, you mentioned that many people are still out of their homes. How are they handling this?
Well, that's right. The water really began peaking at around 2 a.m. and the town decided that that was the point that they would start evacuating people from their homes, that they would rather be safe than sorry. So there are many people who are still in accommodations right now found by the town, but there are other residents that have had a chance to go back inside after being cleared by firefighters, and we had a chance to speak to one of those residents. Have a listen to what he's up against now.
We had to drill some holes into our landing because our sub pump wasn't working, and then we had to get a pool pump and pump everything out. It's pretty brutal. The whole basement's flooded. There's gonna have to be some laminate flooring ripped up. Baseboards gonna have to be removed. Probably might have to knock down a few walls. We're gonna see what the damage is in total. We got insurance coming. Take a look at it.
So the excavators, again, still working hard, bringing out those ice jams that are choking the river. The residents, meanwhile, the town says that it's now on them to register with the Canadian Red Cross. And then at that point, they will go into their homes with firefighters to be able to clear it and to start that cleanup all over again. Magda, I'll send it back to you.
Thanks, Adrian. So folks in that area, I'm sure, hoping for some dry conditions. Amanda Weldon joins us now with a little bit more on that. So how are things looking?
Well, maybe a little chilly. We even had some flurries, but dry at least, Magda. So yeah, a lot of that work is still being taken place on a lot of those waterways. We're going to talk about that in a moment's time. I want to show you the broad look. Sometimes easier to understand what's going on. The ridge out in the west, it's pumping up the heat. Abbotsford, 22 degrees actually in their 7-day forecast. For us out here in the east, we've got that trough, and that's been still ushering in cooler conditions. So Saturday evening, this is what it's going to look like. -2 for you. Feels like -9 if you are heading out and celebrating at all for St. Patrick's Day. It's going to be -5, feeling like -12. You still got to bundle up, okay? Winter is still very much in place. Now, as we take a look at our radar return, you do see a little bit of that clutter. What's interesting right now about our lakes is we have just enough surface area to get that fetch off of the water, is what we call it, to create some of that. So Huron, with only that 47.8 covered in ice, we have that potential for some of that lake enhancement and that lake effect. Boundary behind brings those winds across the lakes, and that's basically why we are seeing some of those conditions, and as well some gusty winds. I'm sure you noticed it was pretty gusty today. When we come back, we're going to be talking a little bit more about the flood situation and some things that you should definitely keep in mind with safety on that.
All right, thank you, Amanda.
No problem.
Well, that weather is good for city crews that are hitting the road this weekend out to repair potholes. Now, you'll see crews around, including on the Don Valley Parkway and the Gardiner Expressway for this pothole blitz. According to a city official, this year's multiple freeze-thaw cycles, a year's worth of snow accumulation, and extreme cold has slowed down repairs. Last year, by this time, they had repaired more than 100,000 potholes. And so far this year, around 33,000 have been repaired. Well, young hockey players from neighborhoods across the city showed off their skills in a new all-day tournament.
We came here to kick butt. Yeah.
Okay, purple, follow me.
Good and tough one, of course. Yeah.
The teams faced off for the Hockey in the Neighborhood Cup in Scarborough. It was the first ever tournament for the program that's actually been introducing young people to the sport for years. It's run by the MLSC and the City of Toronto. The program gives players equipment and on-ice lessons at no cost. Today, more than 350 kids participated. They also got the chance to learn some lessons from some former Maple Leaf players. Well, London is ready to throw a big Juno party this weekend, but ahead of Sunday's festivities, CBC's Fresh Air took their show on the road for a special live broadcast today.
There will be no consolation prize. This time the bone is broken clean. No baptism, no reprise, and no sweet taste of victory.
Radio host Anaba Duncan kicked off the celebrations with a live audience at Edgar and Joe's Cafe. She interviewed several artists ahead of the awards ceremony, and dozens of fans were treated to live performances, including one from Canadian singer and 8-time Juno Award winner Jan Arden. Just take a listen to her as we head to break. The founder of Ontario's Sickle Cell Association isn't slowing down. Lily Johnson celebrated her 97th birthday today and says she's finally reaping the benefits of her life's work.
First thing I'm going to say, thank you, Lord, for this very happy and shall I say, engaged life of mine throughout the years have paid off, and I'm happy about that.
Hundreds of family and friends gathered to celebrate Johnson's life this afternoon as she approaches the rare century mark. Johnson was awarded the Order of Ontario in 2011 for her work with Sickle Cell Association. She was named Toronto's Public Health Champion in 2009, and her career culminated in being named the province's first Black Director of Public Health in Leeds, Grenville, and Lanark. Well, Amanda Welton is back now with another look at the full forecast now.
Well, if I think you asked Lily, she would say, turn around, don't drown. That's a tip for flooding. She's the one that's made it. So let's go through the rest of the tips so we can all make it to 97, Magda. So you don't want to drive through the waterways. We are talking about high water right now currently. Local areas, we've got warnings in place. The Nith River, and that's all coming from the Grand River, of course. So in New Hamburg, we actually have a watch. Credit River, the watershed, a watch as well. We caught up with Adrian earlier in the show, and he saw a lot of that flooding as well. Widespread, we're not looking at more rain, so that's good news. -2 for you. Sunday, here we go, St. Patrick's Day, and we've even got some green sneaking on in. 2 for Toronto, but widespread across the country. You know, I think if you've got any relatives out in Vancouver, they may be celebrating patio season a little bit more early than we are. Now, what we have been talking about is a little bit of lake effect. You may have caught in a squall. I know I did driving from Scarborough today, just coming off of Huron, but it's all thanks to not a lot of ice out on the lakes right now. It is pretty clear. So with that being said, we're going to have some pretty clear skies coming on up. And even tomorrow, you could get a squall coming off of Huron, could reach Toronto. So that's what they've been talking about. I heard that on the radio earlier, that there's going to be snow. No, not exactly a system snow, more the squall snow. So Monday, we've also got 2 degrees for Toronto, and taking a quick look at our 7-day forecast, there's that potential squall there coming into play. You've got that 2 degrees. Keeping in mind, normally this time of year, we're around 5, okay? So Magda, by the time we reach Thursday, I'm gonna call it. A lot of us are gonna be having our lunch outside, because 9 degrees, that's a little bit more my style.
Okay, you're promising. Thanks. Juno festivities are in full swing ahead of tomorrow's big award show in London. But today, it was all about the fans. Tashana Reid has more on CBC's Fan Fest.
Juno events are happening all over London, Ontario, but one of the highlights of Juno weekend is this event. This is the Juno Fan Fair, and it's an opportunity for fans to get to meet their favorite Canadian music stars. One of the favorites is DJ duo Loud Luxury, who are nominated in 4 Juno categories. This weekend is extra special for them because it's where their music journey began, while students at Western University.
It's really great. Like, I love coming back home, and like, we're away so much that when I do get to come back home, it's very special for me.
They also will be performing at the awards.
If you came to me and told me, yeah, you'll be able to do this, you'll be able to go to the Junos, I would have been like, no, you're crazy.
Yeah.
So, you know, it's a very important lesson in just believing in yourself.
For sibling country duo The Reclaws, up for Best Country Album, they say the fans have been the best part of Juno's weekend.
Our fans have a lot of fun, that's for sure. They're loud, but they're also so full of heart, and I think once we connect with them, we create a cool connection with them, and we're really proud of that, I think, and I think they are too. We just have a great connection. They're like our friends.
Exactly. So I want them to feel very comfortable around us and not like shy ever.
Singer Johnny Orlando, also a first-time Juno nominee, performed a song for the crowd.
All I'm trying to do is to get a little rewind, go back to the first time, to my girl's place.
And for the fans who lined up to see their favorite stars, they say it was well worth the wait.
Crazy fun. I can't believe it. I can't believe it's happening to me. It was really good. They're really nice, and we're excited. We came from Toronto, so we're here to enjoy the Junos. I love the events here. It's super fun.
And the fun continues here in London until Sunday night when the big award show is set to air. Tashana Reid, CBC News, London.
Now, you can tune in tomorrow at 8 p.m. right here on CBC television to watch the 2019 Juno Awards live from the Budweiser Gardens in London. Now, you can also tune in to CBC Radio 1 for live coverage, and you can watch online on Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, as well as cbc.ca/Junos. The ceremony hosted by Sarah McLachlan will include performances by the best in the Canadian music industry. And that includes Cambridge-based band The Reclaws. We've got a little bit of a teaser for you. The band performed for CBC Radio's Fresh Air this morning. And here's a bit of that performance. Thanks for watching our show and have a great night.
Sing long live the night. It's a song coming on, one that everyone knows. It's a bar, it's a field, it's a sea where it goes. It's a guy and a girl hoping that sun don't rise. Sing long live the night. All the beers and the years gonna fly on by. We're just small town stars holding on to midnight. Take a sip, this is it. Raise them on up real high. Sing long live the night.